Welcome into New England Patriots Today. I am Harrison Graham. On today's show, we're going to take a look at 5 surprise cut candidates for your New England Patriots. Mostly surprises. One will stand out like a sore thumb. And we'll kind of outline the cap situation going into this, what it could turn into if they do cut all or some of these players. So stay tuned for that. Myself and Nic Rohloff have you covered here. But hey, listen, down year, down couple of years, we get it. But it's a new era. If you want the Patriots to make the playoffs in 2024, spam me in the comments. You know you want to be back in the postseason. This is rare era when you're a couple of years not going to the playoffs as a Patriots fan. So spam me down below if you want to see the Patriots back in the playoffs. Okay, currently the Patriots have roughly $66 million in cap space. That's per over the cap. Who does a great job breaking down all the cap stuff for all teams, players, etc. So that's already a lot, right? But it can get up to a lot more, and we'll tell you how with some of these cut candidates. Let's start with the obvious one, J.C. Jackson, and we'll bring Nic Rohloff in here, but obviously the Patriots let him go a couple of years in free agency. He signs that big deal with the Chargers, doesn't work out there. They kind of low risk, throw a dart at the trade deadline this year to bring him back. Hasn't really worked out. They can save a ton of money by moving on from J.C. Jackson.
Yeah, I've said this on the show before. It's not a matter of if J.C. Jackson gets cut. It's just a matter of when Gerard Mayo in New England just elects to do it. Because if you cut J.C. Jackson, the amount of money you save, $14.3 million, and none of that is dead money either, right? So, you're not paying him to not be on your roster if you cut him. You get everything back, and it just really explodes your cap space and gives you so much more flexibility in a year that you really need to spend it. And when you look at what he did this past season, he regressed. He wasn't that good in LA to start the year. That's why he was shipped over back to New England for a low draft pick, and then they're able to have all those issues off the field when it comes to missing curfew and stuff like that. It was just a disaster of a year for J.C. Jackson, and the fact the Patriots get to save potentially $14 million is just phenomenal.
And look, guess what? In some world, if Gerard Mayo wants J.C. Jackson, since there's no dead cap penalty, you could cut him and re-sign him for $2 million if you wanted to, because his market's going to stink. So it's a no-brainer to make this move. He had the opportunity to show he could still be that elite player he was a couple of years ago. That did not come to fruition. So, like Rolly said, he will be getting cut. It's just a matter of when they do it and actually exercise that transaction, because he will not be on this roster, at least for the amount of money that he would count against the cap at this current time. Now, hit that subscribe button here on the channel. We're getting closer and closer to 8,000 here on Patriots Today. Once we get to 10,000 subs, that allows us to even do a whole lot more. That gets us into another tier of channels here at Chat Sports. So if you want more Patriots coverage, if you want us to put more resources into this channel, and if you enjoyed the daily content we're already putting out, hit that subscribe button. It's 100% free. We appreciate all the love and support. All right, let's go to the next player here. That is Davon Godchaux. Rolly, I know this one was a little bit of a trickier one for you, but you save over $8 million for a nose tackle. You've got Barmore doing great things at the other defensive tackle spot. I feel like you can replace his production or close to it for a cheaper cost.
Yeah, I'm not really that moved by Davon Godchaux. And listen, if his cap situation wasn't what it is and wasn't going to have an $11 million cap hit in 2024, I'd be willing to keep him if it was 5 or 6, but $11 million cap hit where you only have to pay him $3 million if you cut him, so you save $8.3 million. He's getting up there in age. He's an unrestricted free agent after this upcoming season anyway, so you might as well move on a year earlier and take that $8.3 million, because what he brought to the table this season wasn't anything that you're just sitting here and wow, this Patriots team would be in absolute disarray if he wasn't on that defensive line. He had an okay year, but he didn't grade out well on PFF in terms of his overall grade and his rushing defense. And when you look at Godchaux, his entire role on this defense is to stop the run. He's your lead nose tackle guy alongside Barmore and Keon White. But like you mentioned, I mean, with Barmore coming on, it provides a little bit more flexibility where you might not need a true run-stuffing nose tackle like Godchaux brought to the table, and you could allot that money to a player that gives you similar productivity, but on a cheaper deal.
Yeah, I mean, you can find nose tackles in this league for cheaper than the $8 million you'll get back. And that's kind of like the best way you can put it, right? Like when you're analyzing these roster decisions that these teams have to make, it's like, okay, if I'm going to cut this guy, can I replace it with the same or less money? If the answer is pretty quickly yes, then you should probably cut that player because he's just not producing at the level that his contract is. And quite frankly, you see this a lot on these guys' second contracts because they get older, there's more mileage, the production dips, especially for these bigger players. Like they just don't, they lose that step, they lose that explosiveness. So this one feels like an obvious cut to me. We'll see how the Patriots approve it. I will say, just to throw out there, I do think sometimes there are players in this category of you do like them, you value them, but they're making too much, but maybe at this point in their lives and careers, they don't want to move, so they'd be willing to take a pay cut. Maybe he's in the category of if you can get his cap hit down to like $5 or $6 million, like Rolly was talking about, maybe that's a win-win. But if that's not on the table, I think moving on is probably the most logical move for both parties. Now, name a player that you guys think the Patriots should go ahead and cut. J.C. Jackson's the obvious one, but if you have another one, drop his name right now down in the comments section. We'll go to another defensive lineman here, Rolly. Lawrence Guy, bit of versatility here. It saves $3 million, so it's not like earth-shattering money here, but he's 34. He's probably near the end of his career here. You could probably find a younger rotational guy for that type of money.
Yeah, and this one's a little bit more of an emotional cut. Lawrence Guy has been with this organization for quite a while. Was with Tom Brady back in the heydays on that defensive line. I always thought he was one of the most underrated defensive linemen in the NFL, but simply at this point in time, he just wasn't doing a lot for you. Basically nothing this season, if we're going to be honest. Like I mentioned, he's going to be 34, so he's an older guy, also unrestricted in 2025, like Davon Godchaux. It's not the biggest cap savings at $3 million, but you can use that money and just grow your cap space even more to sign more guys on the offensive side or more rotation guys along that defensive line. Both Godchaux and Guy, not difference makers enough to keep them, and if you could cut both of them to save a total of $11 million, I think that's something the Patriots should absolutely explore.
And you guys got to think about this stuff like from a team building perspective. If you're sitting there saying $3 million, it's not that much, well, that could help you in a bidding war for a big-time player. That can help you between him and Godchaux. $11 million, that's a high-level starter at some other position that maybe you go get a number 2 receiver with that type of money. Like, that's how you got to think about this stuff, guys. It's like, well, it's only $3 million. Well, if that adds up over 2, 3, 4 players, well, all of a sudden that's a high-level starter. So,
well, yeah, I was going to say, good point. Like, imagine if T. Higgins actually does slip through the cracks of Cincinnati and he's not tagged. He's going to be the top free agent wide receiver available. That's obviously New England's biggest need. He wants 22, 23 mil. Patriots could only offer 20 million before that. Well, guess what? Maybe they can extra or offer more because they cut Lawrence Guy with that $3 million. Get it to 25, 26 mil per year and outbid other people. I mean, Foxborough is not the greatest destination, especially with no Belichick or Brady there.
There's an unknown there, so free agents could be more hesitant. You may have to overpay a little bit.
You might have to give up that more money than you used to.
So it all factors in here, guys, so keep that in mind. A couple more players that could be on the chopping block. But first, we got this T-shirt combo. Still some in stock available. Chatsports.com/Patriots shirt combo. Link in the comments, in the description. You got the red long sleeve, Matt Judon style. You got the blue short sleeve. Go check it out. Chatsports.com/Patriots shirt combo. Don't worry, we're not cutting Matt Judon. We are cutting Adrian Phillips, the safety here, Rolly. Gonna cut ties here. And I think part of the discussion here that should come into play is Kyle Duggar, who we can go ahead and mention this on the show too, Rolly. New agent, it sounds like. It was reported today that he's changing agencies. So what does that tell me? He's not going to take a discount. Like he wants to cash in. So maybe, again, you may have to overpay to keep a guy like Duggar if you don't franchise tag him. Or if you do tag him, it's the full cap hit of what that tag number is. So $3 million could go a long way to keeping a guy like Kyle Duggar.
Yeah, and Adrian Phillips, who he hasn't really done much this past season. I mean, you see the stats on screen: 17 tackles,
Been around a
no
while.
INTs. Really didn't do much. It was a good point you brought up on Duggar, where this $3 million could help them re-sign the talented safety that New England once took in the second round. He's a free agent, and he's probably the #1 guy on the roster that I definitely want to bring back. Michael Wanu is a close second. But you brought up the agency. I think it's pretty interesting. Duggar's new agency that he's switching to had a history of Patriots defensive backs. John Jones, the current cornerback for New England. Devin McCourty, Jason McCourty, DeJuan Harmon. So all those former Patriots secondary members were with Duggar's new agency. So that switch might actually allude to the fact Duggar might try to stay in New England. He's expressed his interest in the past of returning to Foxborough. That's something that I think the Patriots should absolutely do. And hey, I know we're reading and maybe too far into this, but that is something that could actually be the case after switching agencies.
Well, the reason I just mentioned the switching of agencies, regardless of the Patriots ties, et cetera, typically when you see a player switch agents when heading into free agency, it's because they're trying to maximize their value. But this could be twofold, where yes, he wants top dollar, but let's get an agent in here that has negotiated with the Patriots in the past and has that built-in relationship. So maybe that could be a signal that Duggar, yes, wants to get paid, but also wants to get paid here and be a part of this rebuild. So we'll have to wait and see. So Adrian Phillips could save you $3 million there. Then Rolly's favorite, Shaun Wade, all defensive guys on the cut candidates, which shouldn't be surprising because there's more money being spilled into that side of the football.
I mean,
currently.
it's funny you mentioned the defensive things, because I just was looking at the cap stuff. You know, this saves $1.1 million on Shaun Wade, by the way. And I was looking at it, and I was like, save this money, save this money. The problem with the offense, and you guys say there's a couple wide receivers that New England should look to cut. Well, they don't actually save that much money, if any money at all, if they cut a Juju Smith-Schuster or a Devontae Parker. They would save some money if they traded them, but I don't know if they would find a trade partner. Maybe they could trade Juju for a 7th and save $5 million, or trade Devontae Parker for a 7th and save $3 million. Wouldn't hate if they traded at least one of them to save some money because, well, they both kind of stink. And
cutting Juju actually costs you $2 extra million, by the way. If you post-June want them, you basically break even. But, like, if you're breaking even, you might as well keep them. I mean, if Juju's your number 3 next year or something, that's not the worst thing in the world.
And it's the second corner that you saw got cut on this list, all defensive guys. Well, because a lot of the offensive guys are free agents, to be honest. And, well, there's not really that many people making a ton of money on the offense anyway.
Yep.
And you look at this cornerback room, you're going to see a lot of new faces, I think, come 2024. You're obviously going to have your mainstays on the outside in Jonathan Jones and the former first-round pick Christian Gonzalez, which I just can't wait for him to be back, by the way. You have to make a decision on Miles Bryant, who actually had his best season in his career this year for New England in the slot. But you expect J.C. Jackson to be gone. Marcus Jones does make his return, but he's more of a slot guy. You wonder if that goes into keeping Miles Bryant or not, if they trust Marcus to come back and be that guy. Alex Austin, someone intriguing. You expect them to add a couple guys in free agency, maybe more experienced, more veteran type guys, because Shaun Wade and J.C. Jackson, not the best players. But, I mean, we'll see. The Patriots are going to have a lot of tough decisions to make, but they'll have a lot of flexibility, because if they were to cut all 5 guys that we showed on today's video, we started at $66 million in cap space. You're almost up $30 million, 29.7 to be exact. You're up to $95.7 million in cap space if you cut the 5 guys we just mentioned. That will play. Will allow you to go out there and overhaul this offense in free agency, re-sign some key guys like Uwenu, Kyle Duggar. I mean, I hate to ruin people's lives potentially by cutting them, but like this just only helps the Patriots organization further themselves in the offseason.
Well, and the bottom line is, even if you cut all 5 of those players, the defense is already good, and it's not really good because of any of those 5 players, right? Like, Matt Judon's coming back. This defense was good this year without him. If you bring back Kyle Duggar, he's a big piece. You got to make a decision on Josh Uche. I'll be fascinated to see what his market is. But none of the 5 players here are the reason why the Patriots were still very good defensively this past year. So I think you can cut most or all of these guys and still feel good about the defense. And by the way, you could spend some of that money on defense too. Like you'll definitely lose depth there, so you'll have to add a defensive lineman or two to with rotation. You'd probably add a veteran corner type. I doubt they'd take a swing on a L'Jarius Sneed or something like that, but there's like a second tier of corners that are available in free agency that you could take a swing at. So the defense would be fine in our opinions, even if you cut all 5 of these guys. It's just about getting resources for the offense, and that's what cutting some of these players does. All right, guys, hit that subscribe button for more Patriots content like we mentioned. We'll be back tomorrow. Probably an update on the offensive coordinator search as that's ongoing. A little teaser, Luke Getsy was in the building today interviewing former Bears OC, so we might have some thoughts on that tomorrow as well. I'm Harrison Graham. We'll see you guys next time. Go Pats.